Is this episode 6?
No idea. I thought that was your job to know.
Well, it is, but I think it's 6. Thanks for the support. Welcome to the Desert Lair, episode 6. I'm Dustin, functional misanthrope. Dillon's here. He's a mostly functional nerd. We were last week supposed to talk about Megan, but I kind of decided there wasn't a lot to talk about, or at least I didn't have a lot to say, so I picked a different movie. We'll talk about news first. Not that you or I, for that matter, really care, but a Super Bowl happened, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, you barely even noticed.
Yeah. Honestly, the only reason I knew what happened is because people at work talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I get most of that as well. Wouldn't even know who was playing in the Super Bowl for the most part, so neither you or I are really sports guys. I did see they have another season of Twisted Metal coming out. I guess I didn't even know there was a Twisted Metal TV show. Do you remember that game?
Yeah. The one with, like, the cars or whatever, and you could, like, shoot each other with and blow each other up or whatever.
Yeah, so it was an original, like, PlayStation game. I looked, I should have grabbed it, but I have the original long box PlayStation game of Twisted Metal. Thought that was kind of interesting. I think that would make for a good TV show. I'll definitely check that out at some point in time.
Well, I mean, I guess it looks interesting, but I don't know if I'll watch it. But
Yeah. Their, depiction of Sweet Tooth, who was like the clown car or whatever, was kind of interesting. Fat, hairy dude with a clown mask. It's kind of funny. Dungeons and Dragons, they're having a live action like Netflix series or whatever. This is kind of a no-brainer, right? It just makes sense.
yeah, I mean, I really liked the movie. I don't know, like, how successful it was, but I liked it.
Yeah, I think the movie was pretty popular and it has plenty of lore to go on. Could easily pull a lot of content from that, so I think it makes sense. Like I said, it's a no-brainer. They're having a System Shock 2 remaster. Did you play the System Shock games?
No, I never did.
Do you know what they are?
I like the basic thing of, like, what they are and what they look like.
I guess BioShock is kind of the spiritual successor to those games. So I played the System Shock games. I liked those. Those are kind of some of the early like action RPG, computer action RPG games. They're pretty good. So kind of cool they have a remaster coming out. I saw the Marvel Rivals director and the entire Seattle team that made the game were all laid off.
Yeah, I also saw a thing about they surpassed 40 million concurrent players. And then, of course, in, typical style of those, it's like, we're making the most money we've ever made on something. Let's get rid of people to make more. But I also understand in that we, like, are based in China. Why would we want people in America other than if we have to? Now we don't need them. Let's get rid of them. Why pay someone who's in America like full wage when we could pay someone literally like at less than half that in China?
Yeah, I mean, I get the economics, but I guess if you made this game and then you have this entire studio of developers, maybe have them make another game? It just seems weird to me, I guess. I get it if you're cutting back or scaling back, but if you had this entire team of people who made this game and they're done now, have them make another game. I guess it sucks in the video game industry now. It seems like you're kind of disposable, right? So you make a game, like you're almost at the point of gig work.
Yeah, I think they changed the business model of like they know going in it's going to be temp work and then move on or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that almost seems like a lot of what it's becoming at this point. I mean, it sucks to just randomly lose your job, but that's just the nature of the beast. They have a new Avatar cartoon coming out, Seven Havens. Did you watch the Avatar cartoons?
No. By the time I really like discovered it, I was already kind of like done watching anime. I don't know. I felt too teenager type vibes. I kind of want to go from the more mature type stuff. So
Yeah, I think when the first Avatar came out, it was probably slightly more of a kid's show. I probably would have been too old to watch the original Avatar when it came out. So It's probably a good cartoon. I wouldn't mind watching it. In fact, I have the box sets that I bought on Black Friday at some point in time, probably still in the shrink wrap on the shelves. But yeah, I never watched it. I think this is supposed to be after Legend of Korra.
I also just want to talk about they made a live action TV show too.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, it makes sense. The Legend of Korra and Avatar, I think, were hugely popular cartoons. So Amazon is taking control of James Bond.
Oh, wow. I wonder how that's going to go.
Well, remember we talked about Henry Cavill, I think, had an audition to be James Bond. And he was super young, I think. He was like 23 or something, which, that's kind of too young to play James Bond, I think. But I guess the director thought he did a good job and stuff. So Jeff Bezos made a post on social media asking who fans think the next James Bond should be. And of course, it was like overwhelmingly Henry Cavill. But here's the thing. He's also working with Games Workshop and Amazon to make a 40K universe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he talks about being obsessed with Warhammer 40K all the time. So I'm saying that's like his dream project.
Yeah, it probably is, I'm sure. But so it's just kind of interesting. He's doing that for Amazon. And it's like, does he have time to become James Bond in a series of movies? Probably. It would probably work out for Amazon too. Just thought it was not at all shocking that everyone was like, Henry Cavill should be James Bond. So, yeah, whatever. I'm down with that. He's old enough now.
I mean, he's a great actor. It's just people keep talking about like that curse he has or something like that. It's like,
yeah. Well, we'll see. So I looked up his audition, which was kind of interesting. So first of all, it's on, like, they taped it on VHS.
wow, it was that long ago?
Yes, I guess so. Like, I guess if you're taping an audition, that made sense back then. But the comments were cracking me up. So here's what one guy's comment he wrote. Bond, what's your game? Poker? Baccarat? I'm quite fond of 40K, actually. Adeptus Custodes. Primed, not painted. I was dying.
That's good.
So the comments had me laughing. Did you see anything news-wise?
So the EA CEO kept talking about wanting to put advertisements in video games. So like during the cutscene, you like watch half of it and then like literally forced to watch an advertisement or something, and then they continue.
Oh man.
Yeah, like or like when you open the game or whatever, and you see the opening creditations of certain companies and stuff. One of them would be like a full advertisement or something. The greater part was like a day or two later, the Steam CEO was like, we will ban every single game that forces people to watch advertisements in the video game. Not even a day or two later. And it pretty much just like, EA just couldn't respond. They're like, because I was like, yeah, you go right ahead. Like Steam CEO was like, go right ahead, yo. We will ban that shit so fast.
Man, I mean, I get it. Like, during the middle of a cutscene would be just unacceptable. That's completely unacceptable. But at the start of the game, especially like a live service game, you fire up Rainbow Six, any live service game to play it, and they play an advertisement. I'm kind of surprised it hasn't already been done.
Well, it's like, okay, what would people tolerate type of thing? And I feel like, dude, that's just too many steps forward. Like, during of like video game or something like that. I don't know.
In the middle of it would be unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. I'm instantly pirating your game where they take out the advertisement or whatever it happens to be. Like, that's too much. But at the start of the game, like I said, especially for live service games, kind of surprised it hasn't already happened. You and I don't play mobile games, right? Have you ever played any games on your phone?
Oh, like free puzzle games or something when I was bored.
So I wonder if any of those games have advertisements. I mean, they do kind of have advertisements, I assume, like scrolling or on screen at some points in time, but I wonder if some of the phone games don't already have this advertisement model thing.
All they do. When some of the puzzle games I played, you complete a level, and before you get to the next one, you got to watch the 30-second advertisement. So that's kind of the main reason why I stopped playing those.
Yeah, so I mean, it's already being done. So I don't think it's that big of a stretch to go from advertisement in the mobile game to advertisement sitting at your computer. As shitty as that is, I see it. Thankfully, Steam, at least for now, has our backs, but it ain't going to happen forever.
Oh, yeah, it isn't.
To be honest, I'm kind of surprised there isn't a lot more product placement in video games. You know, like if you're running around, why not have a Coca-Cola billboard or a Pepsi billboard, a Mountain Dew billboard? Like, to me, that's where I would go with that first. Because that's a lot harder to police, right?
I feel like it's just going to get to Ready Player One level where it's like, how many stuff we put on the screen before people have seizures level? It's like...
Yeah, how many advertisements are like Idiocracy, the movie, where it's like, he's got like a screen this big, but the monitor's 10 times the size, and everything around it is an advertisement. Or
I saw something about Avowed where like the gameplay and everything looked good, but like the technical issues, people were given review copies, and they said it was horrible because the save kept getting corrupt, and they had to restart or like go back way before a save or something. And then the worst part was you couldn't mention that part in the review or whatever before, like, even after the embargo where something was over. You were that worried, like Obsidian Entertainment's that worried that it's like, nope, you can't say anything about this even days after the embargo was over.
yeah, that gets a little scummy. I mean, if it's one of those things where they were going to like release a patch like day one or something, maybe. But yeah, I mean, if you have corrupted save games and you're telling people like you're not allowed to talk about that, it's one thing if it's early access, but if this is like you had a review copy of the commercial product and you're not allowed to talk about it, then that's just getting scummy. You know what I mean?
Everyone was like, okay, well, you can talk about, can you show us like a video? And yeah, they're like, you can't show any game footage whatsoever, even like up until this date or whatever. So it's like, I think they're like furiously working on fixing it, but I don't know. I watched like Twitch, people are playing it, and some of them keep talking about like, yeah, our save file might get corrupted. We might have to go back like hours worth of work or something.
That's kind of been the discussion for a long time, right? Is how much can we trust reviews? Because if you're an organization that relies on review copies or early copies to get a review out day one, you can't give bad reviews, right? Because if you give a bunch of bad reviews, then a company's going to stop giving you review copies. So
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of the problem with IGN. It's like, well, everyone trusts you, but if you keep just giving everyone a 7 or an 8 minimum every single time, what really is the value when people want an honest opinion?
how do you account for that when your entire business model revolves around getting a review out day one? And in order for that to happen, you have to have these advanced review copies. So I get it. It's a discussion. It's something to think about when you read reviews, when you watch reviews, and when you find out that companies have said, hey, you can't talk about stuff that's wrong with our game. Like, well, all right, what am I doing here then? You want to talk about these movies?
Well, do you want to do Megan just real quick?
Yeah, so we were going to talk about Megan last time, but after I watched it, I didn't really feel like I had enough to talk about. I'll let you start if you want to.
Okay, there were certain points that I found amusing. The creator of the doll works for this toy company, and she starts creating it, and somehow her own boss doesn't know what she's working on. They bought this like rubber mask, which is super complex. I was like, how much did that cost, yo? It's like, how do you hide that big of an expense from your boss?
Well, that was one of the things that I actually thought was kind of unrealistic is when they start talking about how much money they spent, it was not a lot. Like comparatively, like how much money did you spend on this project? And it was like 100,000 or something. They're like, no, this would be millions. You know what I mean? I guess it's, depending on how much control they have over what's going on, it's.
And I like how they just completely gloss over. It's like, yep, we mean like a real artificial intelligence. We're going to make it a doll or whatever. It's like, this is how you're going to market this. It's like, dude, you could win a Nobel Prize. Like,
my problem with this movie overall is that it felt like a content movie to me. It had some interesting things to say about companies spying on children and like mining children's data from stuff. Like that's relevant. And the stuff about having technology parent your children rather than you parenting your children is also relevant. The main problem I have with this movie is that I don't feel like it did anything different, new, interesting, really. It just It felt like a competent movie, I guess, but
Okay, we make a first artificial intelligence type of movie. It's like, yep, everything goes horribly wrong. And they're like sociopath level of like,
yeah.
oh, someone's in my way or doing something that's against my objective of what I was programmed to do. My first thought, kill them. Not like try and deal with it another way, just immediately go to kill them.
Well, I mean, it is interesting. There's all these warning signs, and of course, they just ignore everything. They're like, let's get the product out.
If Skynet or anything like that was going to happen, that's exactly how it's going to go. We need to rush as fast as possible. Well, there's safety concerns. Nope, we need to get this out for money. And it's like, yep, you caused the doom of the world because you can't.
We didn't give you enough time to work out the bugs. You know, the ones where the AI we created is a murderous human killing intelligence.
Yeah, I was just like, that's how it's gonna happen, yo. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Overall, though, I didn't feel like this movie did anything new or interesting to me. It had a couple things to say, but to me, it kind of fell into that just mediocre camp.
overall it did, and gave strong Chucky vibes.
Yeah, I can see that.
There were certain parts where she gets so complex and real more than once. It's like, that's not a real person. They're like, no, that's a toy. they're like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's ultra creepy, especially the times where it's like you turn around and this doll is just standing there.
And of course, they have to give the ambiguous thing at the end. Okay, the doll is dead, but the artificial intelligence part of it might actually not be gone.
Yeah, I think they're already making a sequel to this, so
Okay.
I suppose it did well enough. I don't want to say I'll never watch the sequel because if it's a cheap movie on Black Friday, I'll probably buy it and then it'll accumulate in the pile. So it's possible I'll watch the sequel, but I watched this and I was just kind of like, eh. Score for this?
A 3, maybe a 2.5 is like mediocre and below that. Like you said, it didn't do anything new or like didn't feel like it was anything unique or innovative. It was just a content one. Well, we know something's going to do well, so we're just going to do a basic version of it, and here you go.
What's your score?
I guess I'll go with 3, mediocre.
All right. I'm not going to be quite as generous. I'm going to say 2.5. It probably could be a 3, but I just felt like it didn't really, I don't know, it didn't do much for me. So I did watch a couple other movies, 3 movies in the DC universe.
Oh, okay.
So I had a few of these piling up from Black Friday. Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Did you watch that one?
No, I've never heard of that one.
Really?
No.
It fits somewhere in between Suicide Squad and The Suicide Squad and whatever. It's in the DC universe. I don't have a lot to say about that movie either. I mean, I would say it was mostly entertaining the entire way through. It was okay. Again, I don't think there's anything super interesting or special about it. If you liked the Harley Quinn character or if you like the DC Universe movies, it's maybe more worth watching. Otherwise, I'd say skip it. I'd say 3 out of 5 for that one. The other one I watched, Black Adam. Did you watch that one?
Yeah. I mean, it was not good.
Okay. There's this weird incongruence with some of these movies with the, Black Adam is like a murderer. Most of the people that he kills are bad people, at least. So he murders all of his enemies and the people who are trying to kill him. So it's not like that big of a deal as the viewer. You understand what's going on. But to the superheroes like Hawkman, it's unforgivable, right? But the problem is that they do sort of forgive him. So it's like you're murdering people, you're doing this unforgivable thing, but well, we're kind of going to ignore it. So I don't know. They act like it's the worst thing ever, but then it's not at the end of the movie. If you wanted to take him to justice for murdering all these people, but then you're like, well, he's kind of powerful, so we're just going to leave him alone instead. Like, it's incongruent with the whole tone of these superhero movies.
They want a character, and they wanted Black Adam who's overall more of a villain than he is a hero, but...
Yeah, I mean, he's like an anti-hero, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. I don't know, to me, especially because there's a cameo of Superman in the end of the movie, and I'm like, well, if he murdered these people and you guys are vehemently against that, then you're just going to let him go? Like, you're going to ignore that? So I don't know, it kind of didn't fit in the whole universe, I felt like, very well.
I kind of want to give the redemption arc. He was this, and he's slowly going. And
Yeah, I guess. I do appreciate that the DC movies have kind of went more of the grimdark route, and I think that they were kind of better for that. But still, it's like it just doesn't fit the way that they're trying to do it. I did also kind of laugh when Atom Smasher gets gigantic and trips and crushes all these cars and stuff, and I'm like, do they want to talk about the collateral damage here of like you maybe just murdered someone inside their car? Like, who pays for all this damage that gets done? Are you just screwed? It's part of the superheroes came to save us, but I hope my insurance policy covers superhuman crushing my car.
yeah, I always wondered about that. I was like, as cool as to see one, a superhero gets smashed into your house, and now you have a gaping hole in your roof.
Like, who pays for this?
Yeah, it's like, who's gonna pay for this hole? Like,
Is there superhero insurance on my homeowner's policy? Do you have a score for Black Adam?
I would say like a 2. I thought it was.
Okay. I'll say 2.5. I mean, it was watchable. It wasn't unwatchable. It was entertaining-ish, I guess. So 2.5.
I just thought the story and how it happened, and like the wizards who give the Shazam power to him in the first place. So you can just randomly transfer it to someone rather than it being more like a Green Lantern thing where the power has to choose you.
Well, I guess it also, I don't really know the lore of this universe and what's going on with it. How many people can they give power to? Because they gave power to Black Adam, they gave power to Shazam. Like, can they just keep giving power out? Is there a finite amount? Where does this fit into the story?
In the Shazam thing, he gives that power to 5 other people or something.
Yeah.
It's just, so you can just make an army of these people. It's like, well, why don't you just find people that are worthy and then just give hundreds where it's like, now you can make an entire galactic freaking like army.
The Lantern Corps or whatever.
Yeah, you can make the Shazam core and just like have the most powerful freaking thing. It breaks the immersion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the power deteriorates some. Obviously, all the other Shazam people are not as powerful as Shazam himself, so there is that aspect of it, I guess.
The way the Shazam power works, it doesn't make sense to me. Like,
Yeah. So the other movie that I watched was Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Did you watch that one?
yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. What did you think about that movie?
It was at least better than Black Adam. How terrible that movie was, but it wasn't anything great or anything. It wasn't Batman, to say the least. The main actor for Shazam, I mean, I like him. That part was good.
I don't have much to say about this movie. There are a few points. I think it's kind of funny that they have the 19-year-old living in the foster home or whatever, the girl, and I'm just thinking like, okay, I get how everyone's acting all cool and she's their sister or whatever. Like, listen, if you have 3 teenage boys in a house with a 19-year-old girl who looks like that, stuff's going to get a little weird sometimes. Like, I'm sorry, but I was just like, she's not walking around wearing the crop top shirts and all that stuff without, like, she's not their actual sister and not like a stepsister. She's a foster sister. So I was like,
I don't know. I don't know how that whole like thing
yeah, the dynamic there, I was like, no, like stuff would get a little weird. And speaking of that, the relationships in this movie, the one of the sisters of the antagonist, I forget what her name is. I think Anne. That part's a little creepy, right? She's supposed to be 1,000-year-old goddess and she's hanging out with a high school kid. I was like,
I guess it's like if you're immortal, like the way time works, how do you really determine what you're like? At that point, age is a number, and it goes by your more of your emotional maturity, rather than your actual age number sort of thing. I was just like,
I don't know if the camera can pick up my eyes rolling at you right now, but no. I can kind of understand what you're saying in terms of like if you're an immortal being, but what you're trying to argue though is that the maturity level of this person, like they mature thousands of years slower than a normal human.
no, that's not what I was saying. I was just saying certain people never grow up, no matter what their age is.
Yeah, I get that, but not to that extent. Like, I'm sorry, but no, you're not a 1,000-year-old person dating a 17-year-old. Like, it just doesn't work. So that part to me was weird. I do like how the mom comments about that. Like, I'm not sure how to feel about this. And at one point in the movie, she's like, I don't know how to parent right now. Shazam's, his crush on Wonder Woman, that makes sense. That's funny in the context or whatever, right? He's a boy in a man's body and he's pining over this adult woman. So that's fair. That makes sense. But the other stuff was kind of weird to me.
Well, I mean, Wonder Woman is like a couple 100 years old or whatever.
Yeah, but she's not into him. He's into her. So that's fine. It's not fine the other way around.
Like I said, I don't know how the moral thing works, and I've met people who are in their 50s who act like they're freaking 17.
Maybe, but it's still not acceptable for them to date 17-year-olds generally. In any event, the only other thing that I wanted to point out about this movie that I really appreciated was the gay kid. The fat kid, when the parents are asking, now's not the time to keep secrets or whatever. I forget what it was in the context, but comes out and says he's gay or whatever. And I kind of like how the reaction to that is everyone is just like, yeah, we know. It's no big deal. Like, whatever. Everyone knew. No one cares, right? I don't feel like it was trying to necessarily push an agenda, but I think that's still, gay kids generally have it hard. Not always, but it's tough to grow up in a society where it's still kind of taboo. It's maybe a little bit better now than it was when even you and I were in high school, but still. I appreciated that part where they just, they know about it, they accept it, it's fine, they move on. I kind of appreciated that. Considering there's probably a lot of kids watching this movie, I felt like that was a pretty good message.
Yeah, I liked it. It was just, why can't we get to that level already? Or it's just like, okay, it's a normal thing, move on, like whatever.
Yeah, and so that's about the best possible way I felt like it could have been handled. So I appreciated that. Score for this movie?
I don't know. I keep wanting to go to 3, but maybe like slightly better. Maybe like 3.5.
3.5?
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to go 2.5. At the end of the day, this fell kind of into the same camp as Black Adam for me. Like, meh.
I did like it more than Black Adam. Certain things about the movie was just terrible. Like,
yeah, all right, that's fair. For me, they were about the same. I actually enjoyed the Harley Quinn movie a little bit more. So, the other thing I finished watching was Ray Donovan. You watched that TV show, right? Did you watch the movie?
I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched that show.
I think what happened, they had 7 seasons, and then they were going to have an 8th season, and then it just got canceled abruptly. I think because of fan outrage or whatever, there was enough push to allow them to make a movie, which is essentially just like an extended episode for them to try and wrap up the TV show.
I wish they do that with more. Just like, okay, you can't finish the show. Just do something to like resolve the ending or whatever to like completely close it out.
I mean, I get that most of these directors probably don't have that kind of pull, but I feel like if I were directing something or a showrunner or whatever, in charge of something, that would be in my contract of like, if you're going to cancel the show, you're entitled to tell me so that I can end the thing properly.
Yeah, I wish they would strive more for that because there's so many shows where it just ends abruptly and doesn't resolve the overall story, what's going on, or even the worst ones where it's like a massive cliffhanger at the end. It's like drives me insane.
Yeah, so at least they gave him the opportunity to make the movie, and it still feels rushed, but I guess at least they end it. There's enough content for us to do an episode or several episodes on, but I liked it. It was good. It was entertaining the entire way through, but I don't know if there's a whole lot to talk about. Structure-wise, it's kind of a lot like Sopranos. The family, and they're kind of involved in crime, and they're not mobsters per se, but the main character kind of has some parallels to Tony Soprano a little bit. I liked the stuff with him about kind of his suffering and the self-loathing, and just that part of it was interesting, the character drama there. Overall, I liked the show, and like I said, it was entertaining the entire way through. I do like the one quote where I think the kid is telling Mickey, the grandpa, like, I got to see some tits today. And he's like, breasts are for children. When you become an adult, it's all about ass. I think that's my favorite line in the entire show. But other than that, I don't have a rating for this. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. So, you want to talk about the movie that we actually, or that I actually picked to watch, Border 2018?
I don't know how you chose that. It was such a weird movie. Like,
well, it at least accomplished that then. I was going to read the description on the box, and then I didn't bring the box up here. So this movie, Border 2018, is directed by Ali Abasi, probably butchered this guy's name. It's a foreign language film. That's what he does. He's done a few foreign language films. And also, he directed the movie The Apprentice. So the one that's kind of like the Donald Trump drama documentary, which I think Donald Trump said was defamatory and politically disgusting hatchet job. So we know how Donald Trump feels about the movie The Apprentice, but he directed that movie as well. So I thought that was interesting. It's based on a story by Jan Linkevist. He's a Swedish author. He also wrote Let Me In or Let the Right One In. I don't know if you know what that movie is.
No, I don't.
That movie's an awesome movie. I like that movie a lot. There was an American remake of that movie as well, which is also good. I don't think it's as good as the original. But this movie, I think he helped write it, or at least was involved in the process as well. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure about that. It's based on a short story that he wrote. The actors in this movie, I think they spent like 3 or 4 hours a day in makeup.
I absolutely believe that.
There's some interesting stuff, where they talk about how they created it and used gelatin or what, I don't know, whatever. But obviously, you look at them and you could tell, right? It took a lot of makeup to put on these people. And I also thought it was interesting. The actress, I think it said she gained like 40 pounds for this movie. I can't even imagine what it would be like to tell an actress you need to gain 40 pounds.
Certain people are dedicated and they really want to do the role.
I agree. But to me, especially a female actress telling her you have to gain 40 pounds seems like it would be a little shocking, especially to get the 40 pounds back off. Let me quickly see if I can find a synopsis of this, since I forgot to bring the box up here to read it. All right, here we go. Customs Officer Tina is known for her extraordinary sense of smell. It's almost as if she can sniff out the guilt on anyone hiding something. But when Vore, a suspicious-looking man, walks past her, her abilities are challenged for the first time ever. Tina can sense Vore is hiding something she can't identify. Even worse, she feels a strange attraction to him. As Tina develops a special bond with Vore and discovers his true identity, she also realizes the truth about herself. Tina, the main character in this, and Vore, they're trolls, right, is what the movie is about, but they are basically hideously ugly. Being ugly as a person sucks. That's just the bottom line, right? As humans, we have a very strong subconscious bias against ugly people. That's just the reality of it. It's not a social construct. It's a deeply rooted biological faculty. Ugly people are a sign of disease and or poor genetics or whatever. So it's literally deeply biologically ingrained in us. So ugly people have it hard. And on the reverse of that, attractive people have some bonuses in life. There's a legitimate halo effect, and people ascribe qualities to attractive people that they don't necessarily deserve or possess. And you can tell at the very beginning of the movie, as people are walking by, it's subtle, but they're giving her ugly glances. And they're when they see her face, they're just ugh.
But at least it seems like her coworkers, rather than judge her for appearance, how many times does she just caught people with contraband to where it's I really don't care about your looks. I respect what you can do. And I feel like her coworkers at least aren't oh my God, trying to ostracize her from her own profession.
Yeah. It doesn't really ever show her hanging out with them or being friends with them, but they do during the movie, at least. They seem like they're professional and they treat her just like she's normal, except for the fact that it is kind of funny. She's essentially their drug dog.
They have this real disease where it greatly increases your olfactory acuity to dog level. It's hypermiasmia or something. And yeah, there's jobs where it's just we really need a person with a really good nose, perfume and other things like that. They actually hire people like that.
Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. I would say they probably don't use any of those people as drug dogs,
no.
but
No.
The movie doesn't talk about it a whole lot, but she had a rough childhood. She kind of says it at one point in the movie to her dad, I think. She says something people were mean to me or whatever, and you didn't do anything about it or something like that, I think. But the movie doesn't need to tell us this. It's pretty well implied. As adults, it's easy to keep yourself in check and not give that hideous, ooh, kind of response. But children don't have that control yet, especially young children, right? So hopefully, as a parent, you teach your children, don't make fun of people who are different, but When you literally look like a troll, it's hard to keep children, you know. There's only so much you can do. Dogs really hate her.
The first part of the movie where she tries to walk in and the dog like literally tries to charge to attack her. I was like, holy crap.
Well, it's like she lives with this dog and they still treat her like she's literally an animal almost. I feel like it's dangerous for her to leave the house without pepper spray. Like neighborhood dogs are going to run her down.
Yeah, I thought that part. I was like, yeah, if this is what your roommate dog acts like, how are you going to walk in the street and dogs be like, oh my God. Yeah, like you said, pepper spray. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, I was laughing at that. I was like, oof, man, that is rough. Poor girl's going to get eaten by like a wild dogs. Although forest animals are okay with her.
Part of the movie where like that moose is this next to her. And, like, I was like, dude, I would never get that close to
Yeah,
a moose.
like this is the most dangerous situation. Like that thing could trample you in an instant.
Yeah, I was just like, Jesus.
I don't know. All of her forest frolicking. When we first see her and she goes outside into the forest to like hang out and unwind, the immediately I'm like, where are your shoes? Like, this is unacceptable. Put shoes on.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, so we're going Hobbit style.
Yeah, listen here, Frodo feet. Like, I hope you're showering before you get into bed. This is not acceptable. So her roommate is actually her boyfriend, right?
Oh, okay.
I mean, I can see why you could make that mistake because they don't seem that close. But he is actually her boyfriend. They talk about that.
Oh, okay. I guess I don't remember that part. They just seem like roommates. They don't really seem like, they're in a relationship sort of thing.
So he's kind of a deadbeat. Like,
yeah, like I almost instantly tell that.
he doesn't have a job. Not only is he deadbeat, but he's got a neckbeard. He's this ultra nerd about these dogs. So he's a deadbeat. He has this thing going on with the dogs, and that's all he cares about. But of course, it doesn't make him any money. And you can see at one point he's gambling, which if he doesn't have money, means he's spending her money. And he's kind of a deadbeat. Not kind of. He's a deadbeat. The movie tries to frame him as kind of a douchebag. Like he tries to sleep with her or whatever, and she rolls him off. But honestly, like, even though the movie tries to portray him as this terrible douchebag, like, here's the thing. He was accepting of her. At no point does he treat her like she's ugly or grotesque or whatever. And on top of that, he does try to sleep with her. Her dad kind of asks, like, what are you still doing with this guy? Is he taking advantage of you or whatever? At the end of the day, she's just kind of lonely, right? She knows he's taking advantage of her. She understands that. But I also feel like, who else is she going to find to live with her? She's with this guy because he's not the greatest guy on the planet, and he is a deadbeat, and he needs to get a job. But at the same time, he doesn't really judge her, right? That part I kind of appreciated. Everything else about him, like, first of all, the bald spot with the long hair is not working for you anymore, dude. I'm sorry, but it is not socially acceptable. If you have long ponytail hair and you have a bald spot in the middle of your head, time to cut it. I'm sorry, but it's got to go, man. The other thing, like, he's kind of a scraggly neck beard. And then the clothes that he wears to that dog show, I don't know if you remember.
I don't really remember that part.
He's wearing this Western shirt that has these, like, silver tips on his collar. And then he's got like an American Eagle bolo tie thing. And I'm like, what in the fuck is going on here? Like, I don't know if it's like he just had this super American Western look. Is that like a thing at these dog shows? I'm like, I don't know, but this is not acceptable. Like,
maybe I saw it, but I was just like,
didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah, I just didn't pay attention to it, I guess.
I noticed it because I'm like, this just fits right in with this neckbeard persona of like, it's kind of the equivalent of the anime nerd trying to wear a fedora or something. It's like, I'm sorry, like, I know you think it's cool, but it's not working, man. And then the shirt that she's wearing while she's laying in bed, I don't know if you remember, it's like that fuzzy icicle thing. I'm like, this is the most hideous thing in this movie. It's literally more ugly than they are. Like, who gave, like, this shirt? No person should be wearing this shirt.
I definitely remember that part. I was like, what is she like? Is this supposed to be pajamas? Or like, what is this?
Like, it looks like she's wearing this crap you wrap around Christmas trees or something. I'm like, what is this shirt?
Yeah, I'd much rather get those like hideous Christmas Day sweaters you get from like your grandma.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was funny. Listen, we're super judgmental. I don't give a crap. Your clothes are ugly. Fix it, man. So during the course of her job, she meets 4A. He comes through the airport, and there's kind of a little bit of awkwardness at first, and then he's like on a cruise or on a boat or something. I did like that part. He's in the buffet line, right? And he just scrapes the entire platter of whatever that was onto his plate. I'm like, man, I can so relate to that. Both you and I are kind of fatties, right? Like at a holiday event, if you're sitting in front of a platter of cantaloupe, you're just going to eat the entire thing, right?
Yeah, I would.
Like, I mean, you have to consciously make an effort to like leave 3 pieces for someone else.
At this point, our family knows it's like I'm going to devour this.
Yeah, it's like, I'm same way. Like I'm sitting in front of the meat and cheese platter or whatever. Like the thing that I like, I'm just going to sit there and eat all of it. I don't care. So I thought that part was funny. It had me laughing. But I also like how the lady's like, that's supposed to be for everybody. And I'm like, what is he going to do? Scrape it back into the thing after he put it on his plate?
I was like, it's a buffet. That is make more. Like,
that's supposed to be for everybody. And he's just like, whatever, bitch.
yeah, that's when you just lick it all. I'm like, okay, here you go.
Yeah, do you want it? I mean, it is kind of unacceptable behavior, but it was still pretty funny. She kind of gets involved with him. He comes back through the airport. He's got the thing that almost looks like the bomb going through the airport. I like how she searches him or whatever, or she calls for a search. I guess, first of all, what does his passport say? Because I assume there has to be gender on the passport or on the thing. Because, the guy goes and searches him and he's like, that was super embarrassing. You should have been the one to do this. This is a woman.
That part is really confusing. It's his features of what he has that looks male, but it isn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of part of the fantasy lore or whatever, I think. But specifically just that scene, I was wondering, do they not have a gender on the passport? I also like how she asked, like, well, did he have a surgery? And the guy's like, I didn't ask. Like, it's not acceptable. Hello.
Before that guy came another guy who looks completely normal, and he's like, this person. They search his bag, and it's like, nothing's wrong. Or they're like, we didn't find anything. Like, are you sure? And she just pulls out his phone and like pulls out his SIM card. He literally tries to swallow it. I was like, holy crap. And then the other guy, like her coworker, literally has to like grab him.
Yeah, like jam his finger in the guy's mouth.
Yeah, like literally grab him and then calls for the third guy. And he's like, it's in his mouth. Get it. And then they literally have to like search it. And the supervisor lady is like, we found child pornography on it or whatever. And it's like, how'd you know? First part she says is, well, he denies it's his. I was like, the guy literally tried to swallow. It's how you deny anything. I was like, I don't know about you, but for information that isn't mine, I'm not going to swallow a SIM card. Like, I'm not that extreme. Like, I thought I was dying that whole part.
It is pretty funny, but the whole time I'm thinking, like, I don't know what the laws are wherever they're at, but you're not going to go through the airport and someone going to demand a storage device from you, and then on suspicion that it may have something that is bad, like they have to have a warrant for this. They can't just search this information. Like, all he had to do was go like, you're not searching this. Like, do you have a warrant? Do you have any reason to search it? Like, your coworker smelling something is not an acceptable reason to go through my personal data.
Yeah, that part, I feel like it was just, okay, like they can look at your phone to like see if you have contraband, but if they look inside and don't see anything other than, what's supposed to be there, like the SIM card and the circuitry, they can't, like you said, do anything. He ruined it by trying to swallow it.
Yeah, like it's like he's trying to swallow heroin or something.
Yeah, I was like, you talk about probable cause. He tried to swallow a SIM card.
You tried to swallow an electronic device.
Yeah, I was like, that is screams probable cause to me. So it's like, if you just kept it cool and be like, cool, it's a SIM card.
It's like, how much of a panic can you go into? I mean, we find out later, right? I guess his panic is somewhat justified, but that is pretty funny that he literally tried to eat the thing. They search him. They don't find anything other than the maggots, which I'm like, are live maggots allowed on an airplane?
Yeah, that part was like, I don't know, because like even milk or like certain fruits and stuff you can't take.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I guess if it's within the same country or something, it's fine. But yeah, I was like, oof, man, we need a better storage container for these. If I'm the guy sitting next to someone with maggots and he pulls this out of his bag, I'm like, I'm going to panic on an airplane. I'm like, hell no. I'm going to take a 4-hour-long crap in the bathroom or something rather than sit next to the maggot guy.
Yeah, that part was just weird.
She befriends him. She goes to find him. And of course, he offers her a maggot to eat. And I like how she's like, that's disgusting. And he's like, well, says who? And I'm like, everyone says eating maggots is disgusting. Like, no. She eats the maggot, and then she essentially invites him to stay back at her house, and she brings him home. And the boyfriend is not super happy about it, and he's kind of freaked out. It is kind of odd. Like at one point, he asks, "Like, is this guy some kind of serial killer or something?" And I thought that was kind of weird because he looks exactly like your girlfriend. I get as if you're a normal person and you bring someone that looks like this, maybe there's some stuff screaming around in your head like this is wrong, but it was kind of weird to me. He's freaked out by this guy when he looks like his girlfriend. So it's like, So she gets involved with him, and then they have all these scenes in the forest, and they're frolicking through the forest and naked and stuff. And then maybe one of the greatest sex scenes ever in a movie.
No. That's horrifying.
What? Why?
It's true.
It's such. That sex scene was amazing.
It definitely
It was absolutely amazing.
Oh my god.
Like, she grows a CGI penis so that she can have sex with her woman troll boyfriend. And not only that, they're making the most guttural, primal, like grunting sounds of. Never has there been a more awesome sex scene in a movie.
No. Please no.
I liked every minute of it. I'm like, yes. It was pretty awesome. I mean, obviously there's undertones of transgenderism in this movie, but because he's a man, he has a vagina. She's a woman. She sort of has a vagina, but then, grows the CGI penis thing out of the vagina. I guess you could say that there's some transgender undertones here, but honestly, I don't feel like the movie is really trying to push any agenda or anything. It's there, but I almost feel like it's more just of a fantasy thing, and it made an amazing, sex scene. It was just a great scene to put in a movie, and it was probably in the story. Like, I don't know if it's in the original story, but I felt like this is more fantasy shock value type thing rather than trying to push some kind of transgender agenda or something. So there's maybe a little bit of subtext there, but I was like, meh, I didn't feel like it was trying to push anything with that. To be honest, I don't really feel like this movie is trying to push any strong message per se. A lot of times a film like this, a movie like this, is going to have something to say, and I don't necessarily felt like this one had anything super strong to say. So after the greatest sex scene in the world, she kicks her boyfriend out. A little later, she finds that baby, and then she finds out he's basically the most reprehensible piece of shit on the planet. He's literally stealing infants to sell them to pedophiles.
Talk about when like the ultimate shock value of you found the one and you realize that like he's just the biggest piece of shit you've ever seen level. It's just like, dude, what the hell? Like,
yeah. I mean, like, just completely irredeemable, right? Like, there's no There's nothing you can do to come back from that, like on any level. Hang on a minute.
Did it turn off?
All right, well, I'm not sure what happened there, but it seems like the camera died for whatever reason. Like you said, that I don't think you could have a greater shock. This person that you've essentially fallen in love with turns out to be an infant stealing involved in a ring of pedophilia. There's no coming back from that. There's no excuse. So Vore, he has what I feel like is this typical extremist mentality. He groups all humans into one category and refuses to accept or acknowledge that there might be some nuance or difference between them. He just lumps them all into this us or them kind of thing. Because they're humans, because they occupy this group, they're all evil. His goal is to punish all these humans and try and repopulate the earth with trolls or whatever. You know, there are times when you can try and argue that the ends justify the means, and you have to accept sometimes collateral damage if the consequences of not achieving your goal are more negative than what happens as a result of achieving your goal. There's an argument that could be made. The ends justify the means. But in this case, there's billions of humans and there's a handful of trolls. So he's A, never going to accomplish his goal. B, what he's doing isn't in any way, shape, or form going to really contribute to depopulating the earth of humans. He's literally just the most awful person on the planet. Or the most awful troll, whatever. Like, you're stealing infants, whether they're your own race or not.
They mentioned the part in the 70s, humans did experimentation on them and was horrible. And that's why he hates humans. But it's just like, so what people did a generation or two ago, are those people even alive? Are you going to blame the children's for their like parents' mistakes? Like you said, you're not going to achieve your goal anyways. And on top of it, just because they're your parent, going to blame the children for it, like what they did?
Well, and the movie doesn't even suggest that these are the children of the people who tortured his family. It's literally just he's finding children randomly. So you could have maybe some sympathy for his cause or what he's doing if like he were murdering like government officials or something. Well, at least there's some gray area in there. But like what he's doing, he's just pure evil. There's no other way to interpret that.
There really isn't. I'm trying to think of a pure evil person's motivation. Like in some twisted version of them, they think what they're doing is right. Or most serial killers, in their mind, they have some twisted logic. There has to be some logical thing other than this guy just being pure evil. Of like, because this one thing happened and I hate humans, this justifies me.
Well, his justification is, well, I'm not hurting them. I'm helping humans hurt themselves. But it's like, humans are not one giant group that are all the same. You're taking infants. You can't assign anything to an infant. They're not a person yet. You're taking infants of people who are innocent and giving them to people who are evil. So again, he has this extremist mentality of all humans occupy this same group. And it's like, man, it doesn't work that way. You can't take one group of people and just blanket assign them to this group of evil beings or an evil race or whatever, you know, whatever it happens to be. Like, it reminds me kind of the ACAB people. You can't just assign an entire group to this because they function as police and say that they're all bad. Like, it doesn't, it's an extremist mentality. It's extremely prejudiced. And in his case, he's doing the most awful thing you could possibly think of, more or less. He tries to get her to come with him, and they meet on this boat. She essentially has brought the police in because they're chasing after these pedophiles, and she's helping with that. And, you know, now she kind of has the person who's been supplying them with these infants. He asks her to come with him, and she's like, I don't see the point in evil. I don't remember exactly what she says to him, but that's more or less the gist of it. She's not of this same mindset, obviously. He gets away or whatever, and after that, the movie pretty much ends, and she finds this infant, which is hers. They had sex, and she put a baby in him, her, it, whatever. Whatever, you know, fantasy troll thing happens. And then she has to kind of figure out, I mean, it's obvious what she's going to do, but I guess the movie, maybe it leaves a little bit of room for interpretation, but I don't really think so.
In order to transfer, like, or just hand off their baby, he puts it in a box like it's a pet or something and ships it to her. Like,
Yeah, how do you ship a live infant through the mail?
Yeah, I was just like, how is this possible? Wouldn't it cry? And the post people, like someone along the chain of getting this
Yeah.
package would like hear it screaming and be
What
like,
kind of gross negligence has had to happen to ship a child through the mail?
yeah. So I was just like, I don't understand. It's like, how indifferent can you be? It would scream at some point because it's an infant and that's what they do. It's just like, oh, whatever. It makes a noise. I don't care. My job is to deliver this package. What else am I going to do? Like,
And I guess we can kind of move on to scores unless you had anything else. So I liked this movie. It's weird, and I like that about it. I guess kind of the problem I had with it is that I don't know. I mean, it's trying to tell a story, right? Mainly of Tina and kind of her otherness and how she comes to accept herself and stuff. But it doesn't necessarily have any clear message, I felt like, or anything that it was really trying to say, at least that I was able to interpret. And so, I don't know. I would have liked to see that, I guess. And the other thing that I kind of had a problem with was the characterization of Tina and Vore to the point where, so Tina is basically a saint. Like there's almost nothing in this movie that she does that's bad. She catches the kid with alcohol and he kind of protests and she's like, listen, do you want to go to jail for trying to smuggle as a minor, or do you want to just pick your bag up after we're done taking the stuff out, dude? She tries to help people out throughout the entire movie. She's trying to chase down these pedophiles. Even though she falls in love with Vore, he's completely and utterly unadulterated evil, so she rejects him. She has a couple emotional outbursts, like at her father, and then when she kicks her boyfriend out. But even those are justified, right? Like, it's not anything unusual. So there's no gray area with her. She's basically just good. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, I guess, but it's slightly problematic because there's no nuance to her character. And the reverse problem with Vore, had the reveal been that he was like murdering government officials, I could at least have some understanding of he's murdering people who help facilitate the kidnapping and torture of his people. Maybe it's not right, but there's an understanding there. Nope, he's stealing infants and selling them to pedophiles. He's the most reprehensible piece of shit ever. There's no gray area there.
that part of it was just like, you have someone that is almost a saint level person and then just 100% the opposite. There's no one that has character development in either the opposite direction of because of teenage influence that guy becomes better or the opposite. Character development was just like, okay, she discovers someone's of her people and realizes no matter how much she wants to belong, it's like, this is what you're going to belong to. Yeah. No one in normal society would ever accept that. In order to be part of my people, I have to hate all humans. Like, Jesus Christ, how far are you willing to go? And obviously she wasn't.
Again, it was somewhat problematic for me because I'm like, I wanted to see a little more nuance. And I mean, she has character development in that she kind of grows as a person as she learns to accept herself and finds out who she is and stuff. But at the same time, like, if you're trying to show that she's kind of a normal person, and I don't know, maybe we could have made her slightly more normal. She's completely level-headed almost the entire time. I just wanted to see maybe a little, somewhat of a flaw in her. And in the reverse, for Vore, I wanted to see maybe some nuance and like, yeah, he's doing some bad stuff, but there's a reason, we can kind of understand what's going on. But nope, he's an infant stealing involved in a pedophile ring. I'm going to go find the chalkboard. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
So I struggle a little bit with the score for this movie. I liked it. I liked that it was weird. I liked that it did something different. I don't know that it specifically said anything to me or I interpreted any interesting message from it necessarily. I mean, it was a good movie. I did kind of want to see a little more nuance in the characters, but it was fun, especially the most awesome sex scene ever. No. I'm going to give this 3.5 out of 5. I'd like to give it like 3.75. I'm kind of on that borderline there, but I'm going to go 3.5 out of 5. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I have the same score. Like you said, I wish there was a little more like not so polar opposite extremes with no nuance. Every single person has not just 100% good or bad, and that kind of sucked. But and then yeah, like you said, it was unique and it definitely did its own thing to where other people like it was definitely original. I was like, wow, this is a weird movie, but at least like it was different than others.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you don't see a movie like this all the time, right? It's definitely unique. All right, I think for next week, I want to watch a movie called Colossal from 2017. It was one kind of been on my list for a long time, and I've just never gotten around to it. So kind of want to watch that one. Anything else?
No.
All right. Later, man.
Yep.
Can't believe you didn't enjoy the sex scene in this movie.
No. God, it's gonna sound like 2 apes having Jesus.
It's just this awesome guttural, like.
It literally sounded like 2 apes trying to have sex. I was like, Jesus Christ.
It's awesome. I don't know what happened with this camera here. I have like the AC powered thing plugged in. I wonder if this episode is just going to be gone because it looks like it's died again. Guess we're going to have an audio episode with just a static picture. Yeah, did you watch the Ray Donovan movie? Do you remember or no?
I really don't remember.
It kind of ends. I didn't really like the ending. I didn't think it really necessarily wrapped it up. I mean, I guess it did, but people are talking about their saves getting corrupted and stuff, which obviously sucks. I wonder if all the saves get corrupted because, most of these games now auto save, right? So that's probably. But I already know. I have 10 saves going where I manually save and rotate the save, and I assume you probably do something similar to that, right?
Yeah, I literally quick save. I automatically hard save every 10 minutes or something. And depending on how decisions and stuff go, I'll save even fucking more. So it's just at most, I think I'll lose maybe 20 or 25 minutes of effort, at most.
Yeah.
But,
So I mean, to me is listen, I've been playing games for a long time, and I'm going to have many saves that I've saved.
the most unacceptable game I've ever fucking seen was Dragon's Dogma, where then we have one fucking save. I was absolutely unfucking acceptable. The first thing I did was get a mod where it's yep, every single save that this game automatically does, it saves. If I want to go back, I can.
Well, isn't Will Wheaton plays games where he only has one save file, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I heard somewhere Will Wheaton, when he plays a game, he has one save file, and it's just whatever happens, happens. And I'm
No.
yeah, it's fuck you, dude.
Yeah, I was that is the wrong way to play a fucking game. No. And then people were saying they had a sexual relationship or something. I was how did this get involved? He's we were business partners. Being in a relationship with gay had nothing to do with I don't know why people brought that up. All this because he roached out in World of Warcraft. People tried to fucking dox him too. He had multiple fucking swatting attempts against him. I was all of this bullshit and doxing and calling him out on stuff that happened 20 fucking years ago that have been easily reconciled, but dealt with years and decades.
again, how much of a fucking utter no-life neckbeard are you that you're so upset about some guy running you're going to try and ruin his life?
And then the next one, then there was also one where it's you use a voice changer to make deepen your voice or whatever. Because there was one video from 15 years ago that had a super high pitched voice and everyone was yeah, probably the mic was fucked, not because. And they're well, obviously you're trying to do something because that motherfucker was at the Game Awards and a bunch of other real life things.
Yeah.
To where it's so you're there's no, there must be a conspiracy. You had a voice changer while at the Game Awards and he's what? No,
I guess my problem is I couldn't help but feed the trolls. I'd have the voice changer and then make myself sound like a chipmunk and be yes, my voice really sounds like this.
What do you think, guys? Arrow where he presses the fucking voice changer button every time he talks?
I wanted to try a little bit of this.
Want me to drink it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Take a little sip. Try to hold your breath a little bit and then take a drink. Don't smell it. Just drink it.
Okay.
So, glue. Taste glue.
Yeah, a little bit
melted plastic, burnt electronics.
Yeah. Yes. I'll definitely smell that. I just smell the glue melted plastic smell.
The very first pour of that, like the neck pour from the freshly opened bottle, it was like, I took a drink and I was like, I don't think I could drink the rest of this. It is so strong. Like, that very first one out of there, it was like drinking super glue. It was